Welcome to BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Countdown to Two-A-Days series, our daily look at an area football team and the key questions we're going to be answering about that team in our upcoming August 20th preseason preview here at Big Country Preps. I'm with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, the subject is the Roscoe Plowboys.
Roscoe Plowboys, a team with a new coach. Seymour's Dan Lloyd has taken over for Coach Freeman, who had been there. Jake Freeman had been there for quite a while. It's going to be his first year, and he's got a good group back. 19 of 23 Letterman return, including 7 offensive and 8 defensive starters. So should be a good experienced group there that he's taken over. But they do have some questions that they'll have to answer, and we'll address some of those here in just a little bit. But it's going to be a fun season for the Roscoe Plowboys.
All right, before we jump into that, we want to remind you folks to please hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Also, hit that little bell so that you'll get notifications each and every time that Big Country Preps comes up with a new video. All right, and with that, Dan, the top questions to have answered of the Roscoe Plowboys going into 2025. What's the first one that hits the top of your mind?
I think the big one is just how quickly this program and the players within it will adjust to Coach Dan Lloyd and kind of the changes he's bringing to the program. They've had one voice in that program for a long time, and Coach Freeman. Obviously, he was replaced in the off season. I know there's some strong feelings around that, but a new coach coming in is going to want to take over the program, bring in his culture, bring in his system. Just how quickly will these players, and again, a lot of them with experience, how quickly will those guys adjust to him, adapt to what he wants to do, and do those things efficiently? So I think that's going to be a big deal. If they can do that quickly, I think this Roscoe team has a chance to compete, pretty well in District 7 2A Division 2. But that is going to be a big question for them. Just how quickly will they adjust to the new coach?
My question going in would be about just their approach. They have some experience coming back on both sides of the football. 7 offensive starters coming back. They've got an experienced quarterback in Jay Sarnwine. But my question is, will they slow things down just a little bit and run the football while the offense, adapts to the new system, or will they come out firing with this? They're running a spread offense. Will they come out firing and kind of just roll with the punches and just keep playing through whatever mistakes they make with the new system as they learn it? There's two schools of thought there. You play it safe, or just say heck with it. Let's go. Let's learn from our mistakes. So that's my question. That would be my big question: is what their approach is going to be.
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting as well because, like you said, Arnwine's been there a long time, has a lot of experience. Now, finally, a senior, and they did lose, as we talked about, for years and years and years. Ivan the Terrible McCann, a guy who they leaned really heavily on both sides of the football. So he was a huge part of that running game. I'm kind of interested to see if maybe they lean more on Arnwine's arm a little bit more this year as well. So that will be interesting to see. The third question and final question we have today is just about depth. I think this team has a lot of Letterman back. 19 Letterman for a 2A D2 is a really good number. 7 offensive, eight defensive starters are a really good number. So they've got guys who have a lot of experience and maybe starting experience even. But you are going to be relying on call-ups from a 5-5 JV team. And maybe some backups. How quickly will those guys kind of raise their level of play to fill in those few holes that this team has, and be able to be there in the event of some injuries, which happen to every football team every season. So I think depth will be an interesting one. We'll see just how quickly can their depth guys really make themselves contributors, because that often is the difference between a successful season and one that maybe is not as successful, because you're going to have some attrition. Just about every team does. You got to have that depth in your program to survive it. So I'll be interested to see how that works out for this Roscoe team as well.
All right, we're going to be taking a quick look at Roscoe's schedule for 2025 here in a moment. But before we do that, we need to thank some of our sponsors, beginning with For the Love of the Game Broadcasting and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Brackenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Bracken, KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is For the Love of the Game Broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a new vehicle or a used vehicle, call Rob. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. Give him a shout at 254-559-2266. That's Rob Durham up at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. And finally, Cavalry Resources and Construction, located up in Breckenridge, serving the entire big country, offering custom standing seam roofing made on location and all commercial roofing applications. Give Kobe Walker a shout at 254 246 5546. That is Cavalry Resources and Construction in Breckenridge. All right, and with that, Dan, it's time to take a look at Roscoe's schedule for 2025. We'll begin with the non district portion. This is not an easy schedule. Not an easy schedule, but I mean, that's the way Roscoe's been rolling in recent years. They would take on a tough non-district schedule to get ready for the rest of the year and the playoffs. They start at Holly on August the 29th. That's tough. They've got a Kahoma team that is very good at home. They've got that on September 5th. On the 12th of September, they face Era, and that's going to be at a site that is neutral. That's going to be TBA. They're going to face Stanford at home on the 19th, and then they're at new home on the 26th. That is a very tough schedule for
Yeah, that
Roscoe. That's talk about having to grow up in a hurry. That's it.
Yeah, that's a pretty brutal schedule. I remember talking to Coach Freeman on realignment day when he put that together, and he was having trouble getting games. And Coach Lloyd is gonna he's inheriting a really tough non-district schedule, but that should get them ready for district, which opens after their open date on October 3rd. On October 10th, they open district at Cross Plains. They come back home to play Hamlin on the 17th of October. Have back-to-back road games against Winters and Albany on the 24th and 31st of October, and then they wrap up district play at home against Miles on November 7th. So, uh, as tough as non-district play is, there are some winnable games in that district. They'll have an opportunity to compete for. And I think it's going to be a wild race for that number two playoff spot, number two and three. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out for the Plowboys this year.
If well, now it's time to kind of speculate on what their game of the year is or games of the year. How do you see it in district play?
I think those first two right off the bat in district on October 10th, they start at Cross Plains and they come home and play Hamlin. I think you and I kind of feel like those two teams have a pretty good opportunity to be playing for that runner-up spot. And if Roscoe wants to get into that mix, those are two huge games for them right off the bat. Albany, I think, is a step above everybody else in this district this year. But after that, I think it could be a pretty wide open race, and we'll find out pretty quickly how equipped Roscoe is to be a part of that, both with that brutal non-district schedule and with those first two district games.
How healthy will he be after that non-district schedule, which
Yeah.
is going to be very challenging? And then two teams that are going to be challenging for the second and third spots in district, Cross Plains and Hamlin, right off the bat. If Roscoe wants to be in that mix, then they need to win one of those two games, preferably for them, from their viewpoint, both of them. But those are very important games if they want to capture a high seed and get into the playoffs. So, yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, and I think you made a good point with that non-district schedule about just staying healthy because not only are they're really good teams in that non-district schedule, they're schools that are larger than they are in most cases as well. So you're talking about teams that have probably a little more depth than they do. So they're going to have their work cut out with that non-district schedule. The first thing I said when we looked at it was just, "Eesh, that's tough." So, but
Yes.
if they can survive that non-district schedule, maybe get a win or two and just continue to improve, I think you have an opportunity in district to make some hay. So it should be
And
interesting.
retain, well, not only their health, but retain some semblance of confidence also
Yeah.
going into district after that because they're
Yeah.
learning a new system
Mhm.
on, with they don't have the experience of a rebuilding team, but they are learning a new system and under a new coach. So to some extent, they are rebuilding a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are.
So,
And this is a program that is leaned heavily on culture in the past. I think it will probably try to do that again. But when you do have a new coach, there are going to be obviously some growing pains, some transition, and we're going to find out through that non-district schedule just what kind of impact those will have.
all right, with that, it's about time to wrap up this edition of the Countdown to Two-A-Days series, the Roscoe Plowboys. But before we do that, we want to remind you one more time, August 20th is the big day here at Big Country Preps. That's the day that we release the Big Country Preps preseason preview. It's the most comprehensive look at Big Country football of any media source in the area, and as far as I'm concerned, statewide. Don't forget, we'll have stats, we'll have standings, features, we'll have opinion pieces, we'll have team previews, we'll have everything that you want to see in a preview.
In the meantime, thank you for joining us for this episode of our Countdown to Two-A-Days series. And make sure you come back tomorrow when we close out District 7 2A D2 with the Winters Blizzards here at BigCountryPreps.com.